Republicans slamming Kamala Harris as a far-left radical after her selection as Joe Biden's running mate. But some Democrats are calling the California senator the safe choice. Former Obama senior advisor David Axelrod says, quoting here, "In the end, Biden seriously considered others, but returned to Harris as the do-no-harm candidate. Unlikely to thrill or outrage many, she may not seem the most comfortable fit as a governing partner, a quality Biden said he was seeking, but Harris was viewed as the safest pick to win in November." And, you have this. Oh, there he is. Joining me now is Democratic Senator from Delaware, Chris Coons. He is a member of the Senate Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. Senator, it's so good to see you. I want to put this on the screen. This is the New York Post saying with the headline that said "Comrades," clearly a play on Kamala Harris's name. And I want to remind our audience, Senator, that, and I'll play this back and forth from the debates and the primaries where Kamala Harris questioned Joe Biden's record on race. Watch this.
To hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
It's a mischaracterization of my position across the board. I did not praise racist.
And, of course, the question, Senator, is if his running mate now questioned him about his record on race, President Trump will certainly do the same.
Well, Trace, I think it takes a strong man to go through a thorough vetting process and to choose a person who was tough on you in the primaries. I'll remind you that's what Ronald Reagan did with George H.W. Bush. They had a very tough series of exchanges in the debates back in the 1980 primary, and yet Reagan reached out to and chose a vice president who he knew was experienced, seasoned, capable, even though he'd been tough on him. Our current president, President Trump, seems a little thin-skinned in comparison, and I frankly am excited about the Biden-Harris ticket. She's coming to Delaware today. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will do their first joint event here in Wilmington this evening. I know her from the Judiciary Committee. I know how tough she can be in questioning, but I also know how warm and empathetic and caring she can be in personal moments. I'm excited about this ticket, and I think they're going to win this November.
And, Senator, what do you say to those who are kind of questioning her political compass? For example, back in 2010 in her book called Smart on Crime, she wrote the following, quoting, "If we take a show of hands of those who would like to see more police officers on the street, mine would shoot up. A more visible and strategic police presence is a deterrent to crime, and it has a positive impact on a community." And yet now she comes out and says, we are confusing safe communities with hiring more cops. That is a dramatic change of tone for Senator Harris.
Well, two things, Trace. I think you have to read her book, Smart on Crime. I actually read it at the time, and you have to serve alongside her, as I do on the Judiciary Committee, to understand some of the nuances and some of the wisdom in her positions on civil liberties, civil rights, and policing. She was an executive elected statewide 3 times in our most populous state, whereas Attorney General, she supervised 7,000 attorneys. So she's actually got governing experience. And as someone in her elected roles, both in San Francisco and statewide in California, who was close to and had responsibility for law enforcement and policing, she understands how to make our community safer, but how to do it in a way that promotes justice. I think that's a great compliment to Joe Biden's long record on fighting for stronger but more effective policing. She is California's top cop. She says, I'm California's top cop, and says, she is a big supporter of the police. She called herself the top cop, and now she's saying, well, you don't necessarily need more police. So it's a change. And some are saying, the whole idea is that maybe she's placating social groups. An example of that is, you said you worked with her. I know you came out with, the Senate's version of the Justice in Policing Act, which called for the DOJ to be able to investigate, to be more thorough in investigating police departments and the abuses thereof. And yet, in 2015, the Obama administration investigated the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri, and they found that that shooting was justified. And yet Kamala Harris continues today to say that Michael Brown was murdered. She knows Michael Brown was not murdered, and the Justice Department found that it was justified. And yet she says that, and some are accusing her, saying that's nothing more than placating these social groups. And your response to that, sir? Trace, the element of the bill that you just referred to that I co-sponsor would allow the Department of Justice in exceptional cases to actually investigate police departments that have long records of police abuse. There are about 19,000, I believe, police departments in the United States, about 3 million law enforcement officers. In the second term of the Obama-Biden administration, there were a dozen pattern and practice investigations. So these are tools used against just those departments that have striking records. And it does, in critical cases, allow for consent decrees to be entered into between a municipal force like Minneapolis or New Orleans, where there's a long pattern in practice.
And the senator
I do think that that's an appropriate tool for the federal government to have.
And the senator saying that Michael Brown was murdered when she knows the Department of Justice ruled that it was justified?
Trace, I have not heard her say that, and frankly, I'd be happy to come back on and speak to what I can find about her record on this issue. The larger point is that she's been both a forceful advocate for policing and for more just and appropriate policing. I think she understands how to strike the right balance between the understandable outrage of not just African Americans, but people of all backgrounds in our country over unjustified police killing, something I've heard from Republicans and Democrats alike in the Senate after the brutal killing of George Floyd. But I think she also understands how to avoid the temptations of overreach in this direction.
Senator Chris Coons, always good to see you, sir. Thank you.